There's a chair in the corner of that restaurant that no one ever sits in, half blocked by a ficus and facing the emergency exit. That's where I was. I wasn't supposed to be there. Not according to her plan. From that angle, I could see the whole table. The polished glassware. The reserved sign. Her. Hair curled. Burgundy dress. Smile rehearsed. She kept glancing at the elevator, expecting me to walk out with a bouquet and a soft look in my eyes. She was practicing her lines. I could see it in her smirk, the way she shifted in her seat like a performer waiting for curtain rise. She didn't know I'd heard her rehearsal already, not in her head, but in her real voice, earlier that day, in the cafe bathroom stall next to mine. No joke. That's where it started. I wasn't spying. I was hiding from the world with a cup of burnt coffee and a headache. And then I heard her voice, unmistakable, just inches away. Tonight's the night. He's gonna pour his heart out at dinner. I'm gonna shut it down right in front of everyone. And he's still paying. I mean, fair is fair. I've tolerated his clinginess for months. They all laughed. And I laughed too. Silently. Into my sleeve. Like an idiot. I didn't storm out. I didn't confront her. I just waited for the toilet to flush and the door to close. And then I sat there. In that stall. For 27 minutes. Counting each tile on the floor. Repeating her words like they were written on the walls. When I finally left, the sky had turned that grayish-pink shade that makes everything feel like a dream you're not waking up from. I knew I was supposed to cancel the reservation. Block her. Call a lawyer. Text her I know. But I didn't. I showed up. Quietly. Early. I tipped the hostess $50 to sit me near the corner where no one would notice me. And then I waited. I watched. And I waited some more. And right when I saw her check her phone for the 10th time and sigh like I was late again, I stood up, walked toward the table from behind her, not with flowers or a ring, but with a single cream-colored envelope. I placed it next to her bread plate without saying a word. She looked up, confused. Tried to speak. I was already walking away. What was in the note? That's the question her best friend wouldn't stop texting me at 1:14 a.m. She's still crying. She won't say anything. What did you write in there? Let's just say it wasn't what she expected. And it changed everything. She didn't open the envelope right away. No, she waited. Probably thought it was going to be some last-ditch love letter, maybe a poem, maybe an apology for who I am. As if I ever needed to apologize for being decent to someone who was sharpening knives behind my back. I watched from the parking garage across the street. Not creepy watched. Just observed. Quiet. Numb. My jacket still smelled like her perfume from 3 nights ago. That's how close I had still been to the lie. She finally opened it after the waiter poured her wine. I knew the moment she read the first line because her hand froze mid-air. Her mouth parted like she forgot how to chew. Then she blinked too fast, like she was trying not to let the tears happen right there. But I didn't write anything cruel. Not directly. It was just 4 sentences. That was all. This wasn't your night to humiliate me. I already paid the check. You'll find the divorce papers in your gym bag. Say hi to Brandon. He talks in his sleep. That last line. That's what broke her. Because he does. Brandon, her co-worker. Her, just a friend. You're being paranoid, gym buddy. And he really does talk in his sleep. Specifically, in a hotel room in Denver last month. I know, because I was the one who booked it. Using her credit card. The same card she thought I never noticed missing from the drawer. She didn't know that I'd known for weeks. That every time she left to clear her head at spin class, I was clearing browser histories, GPS routes, voice memos. I have receipts. I have audio. I have texts backed up. I even talked to Brandon's fiancée. Yeah, she exists. And let's just say we've been coordinating timelines for a while now. But this wasn't about exposing her. Not publicly. Not tonight. That would have made me look spiteful, bitter, all the things she and her friends probably laugh about on their wine nights. No, I didn't need an audience. I needed closure. Quiet, sharp, irreversible closure. When she stood up from that table, she didn't storm off. She didn't chase me. She just stood there like she'd forgotten how her knees worked. The waiter looked confused. The couple next to her stared awkwardly, probably thinking she just got dumped, and I guess she did. Just not the way she had planned it. My phone buzzed 6 times between 9:30 and midnight. 3 texts from her. 1 from Brandon, and 2 from her best friend Sasha, who apparently found her sitting in the back seat of her car outside their apartment, hugging her knees like a child. What did you do to her? Sasha wrote. I didn't reply. I just stared at the last photo I ever took of Shara, asleep on the couch, sunlight hitting her face, my sweatshirt around her shoulders. She looked peaceful, real, like someone worth loving. I wish I could still believe she was that person. But lies were faces too. I thought the night would end with me quietly driving home, maybe replaying everything in my head until sunrise like I always do. But no, life wasn't done with me. Not even close. I was halfway through a gas station granola bar, sitting in my car like a rejected extra in my own life, when my phone lit up with an incoming call from a number I saved under, "Do not answer again." It was Iris, Brandon's fiancée. I swear my stomach actually dropped. Iris wasn't the dramatic type. She wasn't even the angry type. When I first talked to her a week earlier, she handled the evidence like she was reviewing paperwork at her law firm. Calm, precise, frighteningly logical. That terrified me more than if she had screamed. But tonight, she didn't sound calm. She wasn't crying either. She sounded energized, focused, like someone who had reached a decision and wasn't going to blink. "Dean," she said, without even greeting me, "I think we should meet again. Tonight." My brain immediately said, "No. Please, no. I've had enough plot twists for one day." But out of my mouth came, Okay. Why?" "You'll see," she said, and hung up before I could wind my way out of it. So I drove to her office parking lot of all places, a medical center, dark except for a flickering lamp near the entrance that made the whole building look like a place where plot lines go to die. Iris stepped outside the second my car pulled in. She still wore her scrubs, hair tied back, eyes sharp enough to perform surgery without tools. She didn't waste time. "I confronted Brandon," she said. "He denied everything. At first." I swallowed. Hard. And then he slipped," she continued. "He said something about a hotel in Denver and suddenly realized I shouldn't have known about that." I winced, because that was my fault. I told her everything. Every timestamp. Every stupid detail I replayed in my own head at night. But then her expression changed. Not sadness. Not rage. Something colder. "I don't want public drama," she said. "I don't want to scream at him or post screenshots or burn his clothes. I want something he's not expecting." My stomach twisted. "Which is?" She stepped closer, lowering her voice like we were co-conspirators in some midnight opera. "I want to disappear from his life without warning. No explanation. No closure. Nothing. I want him to come home and feel the same emptiness you felt all these months, but multiplied." I blinked at her. That wasn't revenge. That was psychological warfare. "So why tell me?" I asked, genuinely confused. "Because you," she said, pointing a finger at my chest, "are the final piece. You're the reason he lied in the first place. You're the ghost in his story. And if I vanish tonight, I want him to think you had something to do with it." I nearly choked. "Why would you want that?" She smiled, a slow, eerie smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Because he'll panic," she whispered. "He'll unravel. And when he finally reaches out to you, begging for answers, that's when you get to decide how the next chapter goes." My knees actually felt weak. I'm not built for this. I'm the guy who apologizes when someone bumps into me at Target. I didn't want to be part of some mind game labyrinth. But Iris wasn't asking. She pressed a small key into my palm. "Cold metal. Cold intention. This is to the storage unit I emptied today," she said. "If he contacts you, tell him to look there." "Iris, what's in the unit?" She stepped back into the shadows, only her eyes visible. "My goodbye." And then she left. No explanation. No map. Nothing. When I finally drove home, hands shaking on the steering wheel, I had two thoughts fighting inside my skull. I never wanted to be in this position. Why do I have the feeling Brandon won't be the only one blindsided by whatever's in that storage unit? Because deep down, I already knew. This story wasn't just about their betrayal anymore. It was about to swallow all of us. I didn't sleep. Not even for a minute. I just laid there, staring at the ceiling, that little brass key resting on my nightstand like it was ticking, like it had weight, like it was watching me. Iris said there was something in that storage unit. Something Brandon would deserve, but that I would need to see too. Why me? I'm not made for this. I'm not a fighter. I'm the guy who folds laundry and cries during Pixar movies. But now I'm sitting on top of a secret that feels radioactive. By morning, my head was pounding. My hands wouldn't stop sweating. I didn't even eat. Just drove straight to the unit, still in yesterday's clothes, praying I wasn't about to find a body, a burner phone, or some confession letter that'd pull me deeper into their mess. I found the unit. Number 208. The hallway lights flickered, classic horror movie stuff. I almost turned back 3 times, but I made myself go through with it. I unlocked it, pulled the door open, and I just stared. No dead body, no camera, no drama, just a box. A single cardboard box in the middle of the otherwise empty space, with my name written on top in bold black marker. Not Brandon's. Mine. I stepped closer. My heart actually thudded against my ribs like it wanted out. Inside the box were folders, 6 of them, color-coded, labeled with names. Shara, Brandon, Iris, me, and 2 I didn't recognize. Each one packed with printouts. Photos, transcripts of messages, screenshots of chat logs, hotel receipts, security cam stills. One even had a voice recording labeled, "The night she lied about her sister's birthday." It was everything. Every lie. Every hidden weekend. Every plan they thought would stay buried. And at the bottom of the box, taped to the inside flap, was a handwritten note in Iris's perfect handwriting. You weren't meant to suffer in silence. You were meant to choose what to do with the truth. I had no words, because what Iris had done wasn't just revenge. It was a gift, and a curse. I was now holding all the evidence. Enough to burn every bridge and expose every secret. But once I opened this door, there'd be no turning back. And I hadn't even looked in the last 2 folders yet. The ones with names I didn't know. I sat in my car for over an hour, both folders on the passenger seat like they were radiating heat. The names on them were completely unfamiliar. Tessa Marlin and Emery Klein. No context. No connection, at least not one I could see. But Iris didn't leave anything by accident. So I opened the first one. Tessa Marlin. Inside, 5 photos. One of her and Brandon, smiling in what looked like a cabin kitchen. Another of her, alone, boarding a plane. And then 3 that stopped my breath entirely. The same cabin. The same weekend Brandon was camping with the guys. And Shara, in the background of 2 shots. Hair up, wine in hand, laughing, wearing my hoodie. I remember it because it had the little bleach mark on the sleeve she said was cute and sad. I flipped to the next page. A printed email. From Tessa to Iris. I don't know who needs to hear this, but Brandon and your fiancé were both here last weekend. Together. Again. I only stayed one night. It was too weird. Something about them felt wrong. Like it wasn't just cheating. It was coordinated. Coordinated. That word rattled around in my brain like a loose screw. The next folder, Emery Klein, was even worse. This one wasn't about a woman. Emery was a man. A lawyer. And the contents? Emails between him and Shara. Drafted prenup modifications. Hidden bank transfers. Conversations about financial separation without alarming the spouse. My name came up 6 times. Always passive. Like I was a piece of furniture she needed moved before she renovated her life. I couldn't breathe. My own wife had been preparing to quietly extract herself from our marriage, down to the bank account passwords, while sleeping next to me and pretending to be bored of Game of Thrones reruns. That wasn't just betrayal. That was architectural-level manipulation. Cold. Professional. Like she'd trained for it. That's when my phone buzzed again. A message from an unknown number. We need to talk. I know what's in those folders. Tessa. I stared at it. This wasn't over. Not even close. Because apparently, Iris wasn't the only one watching from the shadows. I don't know what I expected when I agreed to meet Tessa, but it sure as hell wasn't what I got. We met at a sad little park behind a closed-down daycare. Middle of the day, too public for drama, but too quiet for comfort. Tessa was already there when I arrived, standing near a rusted swing set, arms crossed. Her phone clutched like it was either a shield or a weapon. She looked exhausted, not just physically, but in that way people do when they've been carrying around a truth no one wants to hear. I didn't know how to contact you, she said, before I even reached her. But when Iris said she left you the box, I figured you'd want to know the rest. The rest? I was already drowning in betrayal, lies, and financial sabotage. What else was there? She handed me her phone without another word. On the screen was a thread of messages between her and someone saved as S. My stomach turned the second I recognized the typing style. It was Shara, and the tone of the messages wasn't flirty or affectionate. It was strategic. Surgical. Dean will never see it coming. His self-esteem is too tied to saving things. He won't leave. He'll wait until he's bled dry. Brandon's too messy. He talks too much. But he's useful for now. Once the account is fully transferred and the condo paperwork clears, I'll stage the break. If he gets emotional, I'll twist it into a pity narrative. People eat that up. I just stared at the screen, trying to process that the woman I used to make breakfast for every Sunday had been narrating my destruction like a step-by-step guide. It wasn't just manipulation, it was branding. She was preparing to market my downfall to her circle like it was a lifestyle shift. Like I was dead weight, she finally cut loose for her glow-up. I found out by accident, Tessa said quietly. I was never supposed to see those texts. But Brandon left his phone unlocked. After that, everything started making sense. The trips, the silence, the way they'd talk about you, like you were a broken appliance they were too lazy to replace, but too smart to repair. I sat down on the nearest bench. I didn't trust my knees anymore. Why are you telling me all this? Tessa looked away. Because I thought Brandon just cheated. I didn't realize I was helping build the trap they were setting around you. And that night at the cabin, when I left early, it wasn't because it was awkward. She turned back to me, and this time her voice cracked. It was because Shara said your meltdown would be performance art, that she hoped you'd cry at the restaurant, that your pain would make her feel beautiful. I didn't speak. Couldn't. Because something inside me, whatever soft part had held out hope that maybe this was all a misunderstanding, finally went silent. Tessa sat beside me. You're not the only one they underestimated, she said. But I think we're the only ones who know everything now. I didn't know what that meant yet, but I could feel the direction of the story changing. Not toward closure, toward something colder. I didn't agree to anything that day. Not right away. I just sat on that broken bench in the cold, replaying Shara's words from those texts over and over like a poison song I couldn't stop humming. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want to win. I just wanted to not feel like the biggest idiot in the state. But of course, that wasn't an option anymore. Because 2 days after meeting Tessa, I got an email. No subject, no body, just an attachment. It was a PDF, social pitch, divorce content series. At first I didn't understand what I was looking at. Then I saw the branding mock-ups, the planned captions, the staged photos of Shara reclaiming her life, holding coffee cups, standing on rooftops, writing in journals. Hashtags like hashtag healing after toxicity, hashtag soflafira, and hashtag narcissistic abuse. It wasn't a private breakup. It was a campaign. I was going to be the villain in her story. The unstable, overly emotional husband. The clingy, outdated burden she bravely escaped to find her authentic self. Her followers were going to eat it up. She'd already drafted the launch calendar. I wanted to scream. I wanted to smash things. But all I did was stare at the screen, blinking through tears that wouldn't fall. My pain had been turned into content. She'd already planned how to make my breakdown profitable. That's when I called Iris. Tessa showed me the messages, I said. And now this. The branding deck. The rollout plan. She was going to monetize my grief. Iris didn't sound surprised. She's not the first, she said. But she's about to learn what happens when you underestimate the quiet ones. Then she outlined the plan. And I'll be honest, I hesitated. It wasn't illegal. It wasn't violent. But it was calculated. Cold in the way Shara had been cold to me. And that scared me, because a part of me liked how it sounded. We weren't going to ruin her. No. We were going to interrupt her narrative. The timing had to be precise. We'd wait until her first post went live. The fake vulnerable caption. The healing glow. The new era of her freedom. That's when we'd release the counter. A full archive. No public commentary. Just raw data. The texts. The emails. The hotel receipts. The planned prenup changes. The recorded phone calls. All verified. All quiet. No drama. Just the truth. Delivered in silence, like a bomb. Tessa and Iris had built the platform. All I had to do was press upload. But here's the thing. When the day finally came, when the post went live and her comments started filling with heart emojis and girl boss cheers, my hand hovered over the button. Because I wasn't sure anymore if I wanted to destroy her lie. Or just walk away from all of it. Sometimes silence is the loudest scream. And sometimes, I think, the kindest thing you can do to someone like Shara is not play her game at all. But the timer was ticking, and I only had 10 seconds left to decide. I didn't press it. The file sat there on my screen, loaded, time-stamped, prepped for the blast. One click, and everything would change. Her curated image would shatter. Her followers would see the receipts. Her empowerment arc would suddenly look like the blueprint of a con. But I didn't press it. Not because she didn't deserve it. She did. God, she did. But because I finally realized, I wasn't healing. I was waiting. Waiting for a version of closure that was never going to feel like enough. Waiting for the look on her face, for some imagined regret that would magically fix the hole she left in me. But that's not how it works. So instead, I logged out, closed the laptop, picked up my phone, and blocked her. Brandon too. Sasha. All of them. Like slamming a door in a house I no longer lived in. And just like that, the weight started to lift. Not all at once, but enough to breathe again. I called Iris and told her I wasn't going through with it. I expected her to argue, maybe even be disappointed. But she didn't say a word for a moment. Then she exhaled and said softly, "That was the real test. And you passed." Tessa messaged me later that night. She didn't say much. Just, "You didn't have to destroy her to find peace. That's rare. Good for you." It felt weird being told I did the right thing, especially after spending months feeling like a ghost in my own life. But maybe this was the first real win I'd had in a long time. A week passed. I got an email from an old friend I hadn't talked to in years, Micah, from college. He'd seen a vague post Shara made about losing what you thought you needed. He didn't ask questions, just invited me to come stay with him for a few weeks in Asheville, said I could clear my head, reset, maybe even help with a little local community project he was starting, rebuilding an old youth center. I booked the ticket. Not to run, not to escape, but because I finally realized that revenge wasn't the ending I needed. Freedom was. And as the plane lifted off, I watched the city shrink below me, the skyline melting into soft clouds, and I thought about everything I'd been through. Not with bitterness, not even with sadness, just with the quiet, steady relief of someone who survived being broken and still chose not to break anyone else in return.